Welcome to Babel's Park, an autobiographical dystopia of a brainless cyber whore. You're listening to Chapter 17, Death Warmed Over.
While we were still lollygagging in our treehouse, David was now a refugee, without a reception camp. Behind the stage exit, he was greeted only by wintry cold and a stray dog that peed on his leg, or had he wet his pants. He would have liked to be taken into comforting arms to stammer out his experiences while sobbing in a half-awake state, but he feared that no one would believe him if there was awakening from this. So he could only trot through the emptying park, whose high arc lamps bathed the faces of the visitors in a yellow pale light and gave them a ghostly appearance.
There he is,
Smith told Wesson before they stopped next to David and dumped him onto the back seat.
This is kidnapping,
protested David, intimidated.
Shut up.
Wesson slammed the door. They drove around a couple of corners and dragged David into the guardhouse.
Wait here.
Smith pointed to a wooden bench and whispered to an older colleague, who then approached him.
Walter, PP. You're David?
David nodded and asked.
PP?
Park police. Come.
David wondered what would come next. They went into a darkened room, behind the glass pane of which a grandpa was being interrogated by the police.
Do you know this man?
My father-in-law. Why is he here?
We had detained him temporarily because, like the assassin, he was rambling confusing stuff and we couldn't risk a second attack.
Does he know what happened to his daughter?
Presumably.
Then he is probably still in shock.
You can take him with you.
What are you doing?
I heard our father's upset organ and froze in my fumbling. How did he get into our trip? How to the treehouse? Or was it imagination? Was I already hearing voices because of my guilty conscience? Jackie calmed me down and quickly this interference was forgotten, with my hands and thoughts again somewhere else, could continue where I was stuck.
She was just a child and now we don't even have her ashes for a funeral.
David nodded and took him in his arms. I feel observed.
Doesn't that turn on your exhibitionism?
Well, but I feel controlled.
By yourself?
Asked Jackie, and the whooping cough-induced heart failure dispensed an extrasystal. Moistly it went on and I begrudged all virtual voyeurs their fun selflessly, until I got out of breath, so to speak, at the thought that Victoria would live on eternally in me because I am obsessed with her. The resonance frequency blew all the fuses in us, and I expected the crash at any moment. Although my sibling could have known better, she was apparently more willing to take her beliefs to the grave than to change. But why not? She suddenly seemed so masculine to me, and I was really enamored when, with the last of her energy, she recited a poem in the voice of the little junkie brat I met on the toilet of the Take-No discotheque, which seemed to penetrate to me from another time.
Perceiving cries of whispering orchids, the queen of the night opens herself to the private myths of cowardly Phaeacians. Reveling in a saucy fantasy of omnipotence, revealing her black pearl to the eager tongue of omnipagic Fabio, takes him home to the realm of darkness that consecrates a bloodlust to Ouroboros.
Wow. Pretty wacky, but maybe something for Germanists. I at least felt like I had just been screwed, while Jack grabbed his heart, which in a short-circuit reaction made one last leap of joy and gave me a cold start. It was useless, he had no control anymore. Bob tried in vain to reanimate a beta version of Victoria as a backup. Jack had disappeared without a trace, his ashes smoked peacefully while flames flickered around him, and the park fire department involuntarily worked overtime. Forensics found no evidence of a second attack, and harakiri was beyond their horizon. The press headlined, "Park Chief Electrocuted After Power Failure." While Bob was dreading the morning, his cipher experts, after working all night, had a key insight, Jack's surefire code for controlling host Victoria and thus vital Park parts was 20 digits long and bore a resemblance to a genetic fingerprint that might have been his own. Bob then had a feverish search of the office and apartment for skin and hair and Jack's blood. However, given his hairless body due to years of hormone treatment, not even a wet razor was found. My father felt that his life was like solitaire, with only a few successful combinations, where it was easy to get into a situation where there were no more valid moves. He had lost both of his children today, so going back to square one was also out of the question for him. Bob had condoled with him and David, who put his park watch in his hand. Bob gave himself and them hope of finding something that could restore Jack's code, thus gaining access to the central computer, which was still running on standby with some residual emergency power. Did he suspect that there was chemistry between me and this battery? Of all things, he had to give a speech about biotechnology and cloning in a few hours, and his joke that he himself was also a revised edition didn't elicit a smile from the two, who were now standing beside themselves and just wanted to leave.
You listened to the 17th chapter of Babel's Park. In the next chapter, myself as someone else, Bob talks to bankers, journalists, and church officials about biotechnology and cloning. Listen to the ad-free version on Apple Podcasts now. To learn more about Babel's Park, visit Dr. Kalasana's website fuckup.coach. And to let us know what you think of this series, we look forward to your review on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you.